Girl, let's get it. Welcome to the big broadcast. The people have spoken. They missed you,
Oh
Unc. They
yeah.
missed Unc, man. And I had to
All
ride
right.
this train on my
No
one
kidding,
solo.
huh?
But I'm happy that
Oh
Unc is
man.
here. So let's get it, man. How you been, man? Let's just
All right,
a
man.
little update to the people, man.
Well, I've been telling you, man. I've been telling you, it's been a crazy month. It's been a
Right.
lot of life changes and all that type of good stuff, but it's all been good, positive things. But it's made it very difficult to focus on doing the podcast. So I'm just real happy to be back. I was just itching away, especially when you did the solo. It's like it's
Yeah.
like I want to dial in. It's like,
Yo,
yeah. So I'm anxious to get back.
I love it, man. I put you in. We put you in, coach. We put you in, Unc. Let's talk
Already.
about it, man. Let's talk about these subjects, man. And we got to start with the first thing.
Yeah.
This one might be a little curveball, but wow, what do you
Oh,
think?
wonderful.
What do you think of the recent news? Obviously, you're in, but it sounds like Zach Wilson might not be in. So this is a little something different. That's not really on the schedule. But bro, what do you think of the Zach Wilson New York Jets drama that just happened recently? I know you and me are not big fans of the Patriots because they've been
Yeah.
spanking our teams for years, but the Pats with the surprise win. And then Zach Wilson
Mhm.
taking zero accountability. He threw for maybe like 7 completions, something ridiculous, 77 yards,
Yeah.
and the man takes zero accountability for it. It might be Joe Flacco time, bro. What do you think, man?
Well, I think that the Jets. If I were the Jets, I'd stay the course, even though that's an unfortunate reaction from Zach Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Have had a decent amount of success this year. I have kind of expected them to, regress to the mean speak. But
Yeah.
Joe, I'm sure he'll be good for a few games. But there's a reason, he's a perennial back. But I think that Zach Wilson has showed us some things.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long season, and it's a thing where he's not taking accountability.
Yeah.
He really needs to do that type of thing. It's a very simple thing to do. They train them for it, like from college days, to just go in there and say it's a team effort. I let them down, et
Yes,
cetera, et cetera.
exactly.
You do. It's part of professional. I mean, you get $2 a year to do precisely that. And from perspective, it's just not good for the team, right? Because now you got
Yeah.
one like, oh, what are you kidding me? Right? It is a team, it is a room, and that those type of speeches, media, they
Mm-hmm.
serve a dual function. They also serve in the locker room as well as just the face of the franchise, etc. Yeah, you don't
Yes.
like to see that. That's a sign of immaturity. And like I said, the Jets probably will regress a bit, but nevertheless, I mean, they're still 6-4 in that division. And
Yes.
but that's a whole other topic of conversation. That division, that's a very, very good division.
It is a fantastic division. And who would have thought the AFC East would be one of the most
Mm,
competitive divisions in football? Because had the Jets won that game, they would have been number one seed in the AFC East. That's not even no
crazy.
BS. They'd be 7-3. They've already beaten Buffalo. I think they have a win over Miami, so it's like some kind of tiebreaker. They'd be number one.
Right, right.
So
Yeah,
it's not like something to downplay. I even saw some tweets of some Jets defensive players liking tweets roasting Zach Wilson. So it's like there's
yeah,
some locker room. So that media training is really important, especially for quarterbacks,
yeah, yeah,
because you're
yeah.
the
I'm
head of
sure
the
the
team.
defensive guys are having none of it.
Oh yeah, no, they're pissed because bro, you leave the Patriots only for 3 points. 3 points, you should
Yeah,
win. That's how the math goes in football, man. But let's talk about another
yeah,
team that put up 3 points. The goddamn Minnesota Vikings. I've talked about this on
ah,
my podcast, and
yeah,
you've remarked about
yeah,
it. The Vikings are pretenders, bro. They're
yeah.
pretenders. Well, I think we all know this.
We
But I gotta ask you something,
we
Monk. What do you think that the Cowboys are pretenders? Because they put up
No,
40.
absolutely not. No,
Oh, talk to me.
Cowboys are for real. When I saw that in your agenda for this,
Right.
I said to myself, okay, that's an easy question. Dallas is real. The real question is Minnesota for real? Because
Mm,
that's the real issue in my history. And remember, I was saying this actually before we took that little hiatus there,
yeah.
that we would see what would happen to Minnesota with their schedule. It stiffens
Yes.
considerably in the second half,
Yes.
and and that spanking by Dallas did not help kick that off at all. Oh man, 7 sacks,
Yeah.
right? 7 sacks, and like Kirk Cousins couldn't get anything done. Dalvin
Nothing.
Cook was the only redeemable player there. He still came short of 100 yards, but not by much. Like he had
Yeah.
like 6.5 yards, so that was the only good thing happening there. Yeah, no, Minnesota has some real problems on its offensive line, and they showed up this weekend. And Dallas, let me tell you, I have seen the improvement ever since Dak came in. Dak came in and kind
Yes.
of righted the ship on offense. And
Yes.
now we're done with all these like 17, 15, fluky wins and all that stuff. He put up a clinic weekend
Yes.
on efficiency. 22 for 25 for 276 yards, and his connection with Tony Pollard,
Yes.
reminded you of Kamara at his best days, right? So
Thank you.
Pollard done really smart by recognizing that Pollard is by far the more efficient back, and
Mm.
he really showed on the weekend. That plus the defense. So yeah, I do not see any real stumbles or problems for Dallas.
Yeah.
They're at 7-3. They're looking now. It's tough as hell, tough as nails division. That's the unfortunate thing. If FC
Oh.
division, they'd probably be on top, close to it.
Yeah.
But that NFC East again is another bear, and
Yeah.
I think it's going to come down to Dallas and Philly, obviously.
Yes.
But look out, Philly, because Dallas is for real.
Oh man, you're preaching right now because I had my doubts about Dallas, and I've had my doubts about Dak in general. Because when they
Mm-hmm.
lost to Green Bay last week, I was like, "What is this? Y'all were up 24 to
Yep.
like 7 or something crazy like that." And Dak, your job as
Any
the
given
guy who's
weekend, though, right? Any given weekend.
any given Sunday for real, any given weekend of this one, I'm like, damn, Dak, you are getting paid millions pretty much, and you're supposed to close
Yeah.
out these games. But then that leads me to another thing because we're still on the NFC East, which is an amazing division. The Commanders are on a three-game winning
Yeah.
streak. The Giants are
Right.
obviously still in it. Who would have thought, man? Talk to me about that. That must be the
The
shock of the season,
Commanders,
bro.
man, after that brutal start that the Commanders had, to
So
see
bad.
them play the way they're playing right now.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about Heineke being just like one of those kind of guys who just,
Yes.
he
We
wins,
talked
but
about
his
this.
eyes are a little bigger than his stomach sometimes when he tries to throw downfield. We've seen everything we talked about with Tyler Heineke a month
Yeah.
ago.
Yes,
But
we
at the
did.
end of the day, Commanders looking better than when Wentz was there.
Man, and then now to see Wentz is riding the bench, right? And I just actually saw this maybe
Yeah.
20 minutes before the podcast. Apparently, the Carolina Panthers put Sam Bradford at starting quarterback now. I don't know what's going on with that. But,
Yeah.
these bench guys, these guys who are game managers can win games in the league, bro. And I'm like, God
Well,
damn, do we need these first round, number one, number two overall draft pick? Man, you can have like find some value in the second or third round.
yeah.
Heineke, I think, is like a fifth rounder, and
Yeah.
bro, he can take you far.
Well, if any quarterback that comes into the league and is given the opportunity out of the
Right,
spotlight, to work with the practice squad, to work on, to ride the bench, study, hold the clipboard, all that stuff. We talked
right.
about this earlier in the podcast too, about how Montana, he didn't start until his fourth or fifth season,
Oh, I did. Yeah.
right?
Oh,
And that's
okay. I
a guy who
remember.
came out
Yeah.
of Notre Dame, very highly ranked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so so that's a change in the modern game where some of these young men are thrown into the spotlight immediately, and they
Yes.
really do need some mentoring, better coaching and mentoring at the college level, but also when they get into the pros. So
Yes.
yes, it is absolutely possible if you have the patience to draft a guy, the second, third, fourth, seventh round, Tom Brady,
Yeah.
put him on the bench and and teach him the intangibles of the game as well as the process of the game.
And then somebody who really exemplifies that, bro, is like, okay, he was highly rated in college, but it wasn't that high. We got to talk about our guy. Well, at least my guy. I think he's your guy too. Jalen Hurts. And
Yeah,
recently they just lost, of course, but the Eagles and the Chiefs are, in my eyes, the two best teams in the league right now. And it looks like a crash collision course heading towards them meeting up because Mahomes is
sure.
doing insane things. Jalen Hurts is not doing so many insane things, but that win against the Colts, for him to scramble for that game clinching
A
touchdown,
lot of
it was
character.
super, super big. And
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts was not like the big dog when he came out in the draft. He was
No.
almost, people that had questions about him. But this leads to something that we got to really discuss about based on what we saw last week, bro. Because we just talked your top two right now. Which teams are you looking at? Top two, top three. What are your top teams based off this entire season, including week 11, bro? Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, we decided we were going to talk about the Chiefs
Yeah, the Eagles.
and the Eagles because they
Yeah,
have the two best records in their respective conferences,
exactly.
and
Mm-hmm.
so those are my two favorite teams right now. And I think Dallas is quickly making a claim to be a good number three. So that would be sort
Mm-hmm.
of my top three teams right now, believe it or not. More so than Cincinnati or even San Francisco, although San Francisco you'd probably put in the top five.
That
But
game
there's, I
yesterday,
think, a
bro.
clear set.
That
Yeah,
game.
let's not talk about that. Um,
Unk is hurt, man. I beat Unk in fantasy. George
yeah,
Kittle
Unc is hurt.
finally
Is
showed
damn
up
right.
after the whole
You know
season.
how
That was his
badly
best
I needed to
game.
go to 7-4. Anyways, yeah. Let's not
Yeah.
get distracted off that.
Mm.
Okay, so I'm going to go to my point differential again
No, okay,
to
let's
try to
talk
make a
about it.
point on this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what you're looking at basically is that KC has scored more points. Their offense has been a little bit more prolific. I think they've scored 300 points. I think they might even lead the league in points scored at this point.
Yeah.
But the point differential between both teams, right? The Eagles' defense has surrendered only like 183 points versus like KC's like 225 or 223 or something, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
point differential is 80 points in Philly's favor and 77 in Key's favor. And this after
Mm-hmm.
10, 11 games. So that's a large enough sample to say that, okay, one off is a little bit prolific, one defense is a little bit tight, right? Throwing out the fact that they play in different conferences and, all that type of thing, right? A
Yes.
basic statistical level, they're almost identical as far as their point differential goes.
Okay.
Both are very solid teams. Philly's got the board. It's really hard to say which one is better at this point. That's why they play those conference championship games. But I
Mm-hmm.
would say, in my gut, just based on his record, I would say that Mahomes is the X factor in that, and
Yes.
that his experience in the playoffs probably makes them long term the better team. And
Mm-hmm.
also Travis Kelce. It's the one
Oh
thing that
yeah.
Hurts does not have. Goddard's good, but Kelce, when everything else is going wrong, Mahomes can turn to Kelce, and the game continues.
And the game could be
So
even
yeah, I would
over.
say yeah, I would
Yeah.
give KC the edge based on experience, maybe even the Andy Reid factor, but
Yeah.
it's real close, man.
It's super close, and you know what? I'm gonna agree with you 100%. I'm not a Chiefs fan, but I'm not blind either. I just
Yeah,
know what I'm
yeah,
watching in front of me. They are winning games incredibly, but my issue is they're winning games tight and close. So there'll be a
hmm
time where their defense will have to bail them out. Why do I say this? Because Kelsey and Mahomes are gonna go crazy. Mahomes is gonna go crazy. They're gonna
yeah.
get touchdowns. They're gonna score, but they're gonna need defensive stops in order for them to, well, not only get out of the AFC, right, but to win a championship because that's basically the talent they
To
have,
to
and
beat the Eagles,
to
assuming
beat
the
the Eagle.
Eagles meet up with them. That
Exactly.
defense, like right, they've given up 183 points in what 10 games,
Yes.
11 games or whatever. So you're talking about under 20 points a game, right? That's tough to argue with.
And I'm telling you, man, they're gonna face the Eagles can put up points, man. The
Yep.
Eagles can put up points. Of course, if the Chiefs had a crazy run game, then it's over because the Eagles have a terrible run defense. But I'm telling you, man, the Chiefs are looking really good. The Eagles are looking really good. I think that's literally the Super Bowl bet right now. But as I
Mhm.
say, let's not be, you know what I'm saying? Let's not
I
be, there's other guys out there, but we're talking about Chiefs and Eagles right now. I
yeah.
think for me personally, I have my eyes set a little bit on Miami. I have my eyes set on, obviously my Baltimore Ravens. Cincinnati's playing good football. We're talking the AFC side. The
Mhm.
NFC, we just talked about the Cowboys. Obviously, we talked about why am I blanking?
Mhm.
we talked about well,
San
basically
Francisco.
San Francisco, yeah. And then pretty much everything goes to shit. I'm sorry to cuss, but the
Yeah.
Giants, okay, the Giants are coming in. But in the NFC, it's pretty much like 3, 4 teams, and then it goes the tails off. But like in the Atlanta Falcons, like what? The Bucks? What?
You're really starting to see the separation occur now in this
Yes,
part of the season, right? Because yeah, I was looking
yes.
at the divisions too, right? Like the AFC North, right? Cincinnati looks like it's on a collision course with Baltimore, and the
Right.
rest of the yeah, and the Browns and Steelers are has-beens, as far as this season is concerned, right?
Yeah.
Down in the AFC South, right? Tennessee looks like it's rising to the top there. The rest of
Mhm.
that division is garbage, right?
Yeah.
And then on you go right down, you're starting to see two teams solidly at the top with a lot of 3 and 7 and garbage like that at the bottom. You're really starting to see that in almost all the divisions. Like I said, with the exception of the AFC South, which there's only one team of of any value there at all. So
Yeah.
yeah, we really are starting to see, and even in the NFC East where it's so tight and all that, you're starting to
Mhm.
see, like if you look at the point differential on the Giants have fought the good fight, but they really are starting to look like a team that might be, 500, right? They're going to go 10 and 7,
Yeah.
or yeah, something like that, 9 and 8, or I bet you any money. Dable, for all his magic that he's done this year, they're
Mhm.
just simply not putting up enough points and keeping enough points off the board to penetrate those upper two, right? You're
Right.
talking about Dallas and Philly, right? Like this, just yeah, they're
It's
not
just like maybe in another season they would have been more competitive, but the Eagles and
right.
Dallas are going crazy.
Well,
You
I mean,
know?
they're still competitive, but they're not going to be
Yeah.
competitive enough,
I have a
right?
question for you because over the hiatus, I want to get your point of view. What did you think? This is a little curveball before we get to the next topics. But what do you
Sure.
think of the Jeff Saturday hire? I wanted to get your raw thoughts. I want the viewers and the audience to get
Okay,
your
you're going
aunt's
to
point
have
of
to
view.
let me in on that because I haven't been able to be at that granular
Oh,
level of
okay.
introspection. So yeah, tell me what happened there.
So basically, long story short, Jeff Saturday, who used to be a center for the Indianapolis Colts. He
Mhm.
won a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning for Indy in like 2006. And right after he retired, I think maybe in like 2012, like something like 10 years ago, he retired 10 years ago, right? And he became a media guy, ESPN analyst,
Okay.
analyzing football, obviously, right? And then about 2 or 3 weeks ago, right, he got hired after Frank Reich got
Got
fired from the
fired,
Colts.
right? So he got hired in Indy.
He got hired in Indy with zero resume other than being a high school coach. Basically doing what we're doing, dog. Imagine
Yeah,
what you or me gets
yeah,
recruited
yeah.
to coach.
Uh, I got one.
What are your thoughts, brother?
I
Like,
got
oh
one
my
name and two
god.
words for you.
Yeah.
Matt Millen,
Matt Millen,
NFL
okay.
analyst. Yeah, he got the Detroit coaching job back about 15 years ago or something like that when
Oh,
they were just terrible, right? And Matt Millen every week, he sounded authoritative, as an analyst. He was a good analyst,
yeah.
speaking away, but he was an ex-player and all that type of stuff. So he had some cred. And yeah, he was terrible.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You
there
see
is
what I'm
no
saying?
there's no easy path to coaching success, and I think that's a mistake. He'll be worse than Frank Reich.
And for me, I'm thinking like this, bro. Like, of course, the owner Jim Irsay. This is a guy who he helped draft, saw him become pretty much one of the
Yeah.
best players in this franchise. It's the nepotism sometimes. I'm like,
Well,
bruh, like, come
yeah,
on. You pick
That
somebody with some kind of experience, man,
That's a
and then
bad decision by Irsay. Normally, Irsay is
right.
pretty level-headed. That's a bad decision by Irsay, in my opinion, and that shows me that Irsay may not be listening to all the people around him. That's a
Thank you.
bad football decision. Frank Reich did need to go, but there has to be somebody in the ranks that's. I mean, come on, man. There's so many guys lined up that we all know about that have
So
paid their
many.
dues and that are waiting for good head coaching gigs. Talk to talk to some of the coaches in the league, and they'll each give you a list of six that would
Right.
so times 30, so that's probably like 150 guys
You know what I
or
mean?
180 guys that are like better than Jeff Saturday.
Imagine you
And
spend a
that's probably
yeah,
Irsay's personal bias. He probably had a connection to the player in one way or another. Really, just loved him. He thought it was a fantastic Colt.
right.
Hall of Fame Colt in his opinion. And yeah, that he's allowing his bias to creep in. And I think that's a bad, like I said, I think that's a bad football decision.
That's what I'm saying. Like for me, I analyzed it about 2 weeks ago, and it happened on one of the solo podcasts, and I'm like, bruh, this level of nepotism is insane, man. The man
Yeah,
a
that's
week
just not
ago
smart.
was on First Take analyzing the freaking
Yeah,
Oakland Raiders. No,
yeah.
not Oakland, sorry, Las Vegas Raiders, right? And then a week later, he's the head coach of a
Head coach, not
National
even like the
Football
line
League
coach
team.
or anything, but the head coach.
The head coach. It's like, anyways, man, I just wanted to get your thoughts on it, but it seems like we're in agreement. Respect, man. You're a smart guy, so of course I had an idea
Yeah,
you'd say something similar. But let's talk about
yeah.
week 12. Week 12 is on the way, man. What games are you looking forward to seeing? I'll maybe start it off, but for me personally, man, I'm really, really interested in this Bengals versus Titans game. I think it's
Hmm.
going to be really, really big because you have two big time teams, two teams still going on with wins. One that I also like a lot too, that I think is going to be really, really interesting, is this Bears versus Jets game. Namely, if my boy Justin
Yeah,
Fields plays, and namely if he
yeah,
puts in work, because the Jets look very stupid skipping off Justin Fields. The Justin Fields is emerging
yeah.
as the
Oh,
best
yeah.
quarterback in that draft class, above Trevor Lawrence,
I
above
actually
Williams, and
started
so
Justin Fields, as you'll notice this
I
weekend. I
did,
started Justin Fields over Jalen Hurts. I
and you're
just had a
right.
feeling, man, he's on a run.
He's doing insane things, fantasy
Yeah,
god, and I regret
yeah,
dropping him in one of my leagues. But he is killing the game right now. Unfortunately, it's not
yeah.
resulting in wins. But that game is really, really interesting to me. We got Packers versus Eagles. That's kind of interesting, but I think Eagles take that. Anyways, man, Unc, what's interesting to
Let
you on that list,
well,
or maybe
let
something slated for next week, man?
let me cut
Mhm.
to it really short and tell you that I believe that the NFL peaks over Thanksgiving Thursday. I think
Okay.
all the best games are on Thursday, at least two out of three of them, anyways.
Yes,
And
true.
yeah, the other game I have targeted was that Cincinnati Tennessee game. I think that's
Mm,
going to be a really interesting battle. I think Burrows, if he can get into the backfield, you can keep him down.
yes.
But he's probably going to pass for a good 300 yards. He's got both Higgins and Jamar Chase going well, although Chase has been injured a little bit, but I think he's
Yeah.
due back.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, they're going to put up. It's going to be some decent offense, but I think Tennessee's going to ratchet it down a little bit, and I think that Derrick Henry,
Yes.
because you can run against Cincinnati. I think Derrick Henry is going to keep that game, under 30 points in the sense that the amount of time that he's going to chew up on the clock.
Yeah.
So that game is like 2 points, 1.5.
Mhm.
Um, Cincy is favored against Tennessee, so Tennessee is a home underdog.
Oh, you gotta
So
take
that
that.
makes that game interesting to me because I
Mhm.
think there are teams of similar talent level. I think Burrows is a better quarterback. But Tennessee, I think, has found a way to stay in games. They're 7-3 for a reason, and I think that's going to be a really good game. But that's the only game on Sunday that really intrigues me. I'll be honest about it.
Fair play, fair
But as
play.
far as point spreads go, I also
Yeah.
have that Chicago New York Jets game circled, right? For sure,
Yes.
because Chicago is like a 4.5 to 5 point underdog.
Yes, they are. Yep,
And
yep,
I
4
just
points.
don't think the Jets are. Even if the Jets win, it's not going to be by more than 3 points in my book. So that I've got that one circled as an interesting game to watch just for that point spread. The other one too is New Orleans at San Francisco, and they're
Oh,
giving San Francisco from 8.5 to 9.5 points. And again, it's just like I haven't seen San Francisco's offense be that prolific enough to cover something close to 10 points even at home.
yeah.
And New Orleans, they're 3-7. They haven't been fantastic, but they have shown themselves capable of putting points on the board and keeping your points off on occasion. They just haven't been that consistent. And I just sort of have a feeling that game in San Francisco is a bettor's choice there. I think that's a good one for bettors.
Nice.
We'll have to see how it goes, but yeah, that's my main feelings on the lines this week. I see a lot of fair to middling kind of games. I'm not going to call them trash, but I mean, like, there's just a lot of games that are not really exciting to me, except for those ones on Thanksgiving Day. I really think that Giants and Cowboys is going to be interesting, but it's 9 points in the Cowboys' favor. I think the Giants will be a little bit more impressive than that. But if what they did to the Vikings is any indication of what they might do on a short week, wow, lights out, man. That game might be over by halftime. But the Pats Vikings, that's the one I really want to watch, man, because Vikings are favored by 3, and I just do not see them covering that at all. I expect Bill Belichick and that honking defense to go in there and just make life hell for Kirk Cousins in the backfield, and I think they win that game going away on the road.
Oh, that's a big one. That's a big one. And think about it like this. This is prime time Kirk Cousins. Come on, man.
Yeah,
We have
baby.
seen a pattern of behavior from Kirk Cousins, another quarterback who became a lot of value from like third or fourth round. But
Mm-hmm.
something about him playing in prime time when the lights are bright. And that's why I didn't believe in the Vikings for a long time,
Yeah.
because I'm like, they're going to get exposed. Their games are too tight. And that line, if you're giving them 2.5 points, I don't know if they can cover that. I don't know,
Yeah, no,
man.
because remember, Belichick's specialty is choosing that aspect of the game where you're most successful
Yes,
and trying to shut it down,
they're
right?
excellent.
So Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, and Kirk Cousins are all in for rough days.
Oh, they're gonna have a rough day, man. But I'm excited for that game. Giants Cowboys. I also think it's gonna be hard to get 9 points on that. We'll see what happens. These are good lines, man. And people should
Yeah,
get in the comments and let us know which lines they like, man. Come on, man. And if
yeah,
you win some money because of Unc and Big Stepper, show us some love, man.
right.
Come on,
Yeah.
man. Send us some donations. Come on, bro.
Yeah,
I
yeah. You
want
got
to
to
touch
start
on
that
this though.
Patreon account for kickbacks on betting advice.
Right? Yeah, at this point, you know what I mean? You gotta get that Patreon money or something like that, bro.
Hmm.
But something
But
I
yeah, that's how I'm looking at the lines this weekend.
those are good lines, man. What I want to touch on though, in terms of the fantasy perspective, we've been doing this since the beginning. Week one, we've been thinking about fantasy players where which ones we should start, which ones we should sit, which players are trending up, which players are trending down. And obviously, if you haven't realized it by now, Justin Fields, this quarterback, is trending hella up. So if you don't have
Yeah,
him starting or in your lineup, you better get onto something. But in terms of other people who I think starts and sits, I'm telling y'all right now, I don't know what it is, but I really, really like Jimmy G these days and Marcus Mariota. They're playing above exception. So if you just
yeah,
have them somewhere, pick them up in the quarterback realm. Running backs, your usual suspects. Everybody's putting in work. If you somehow have Tony Pollard, you better pick him up. You better start him. You better
yeah.
start this dude. People that I think you should probably sit, talking about Jeff Wilson. Sorry, not Jeff Wilson, Elijah Mitchell off
Hmm.
the 49ers. It seems like the Niners are going with Christian McCaffrey, who's going to be there most of the down back, obviously.
Yeah, you had to
So
see that coming.
of course, it's Christian
Yeah,
McCaffrey.
it's
Um,
McCaffrey.
EMC, what I mean? But in terms of production, man, like for me, I'm a little disappointed in this guy, Damian Pierce of Houston.
Yep.
Houston is imploding and he's not playing as well as he's supposed to. So personally, I dropped him recently. So these are kind of my starts and sits. In terms of tight ends, somehow George Kittle did something. So I was about to bench him, but it was miraculous for me this week. But he's a risk because the Niners don't usually play this amazing, and Kittle hasn't been this involved in the offense. It's a down year for him. And yeah, man, those are my starts and sits, man. There's a lot of fantasy players that are good, and some are trending up, some are trending down, but Unc, what are your thoughts on starts and sits in terms of a fantasy perspective? What would you
Well,
recommend people for their starts and sits, man?
Well, I tell you, there's one starter I would have. Not everybody is necessarily that high on him, but
Yeah.
he has a great looking schedule coming up, and that's Travis Etienne.
Oh,
Whoever
okay.
has him as a running back, he's playing with the Jags, so there's going to be possibly some struggles, but he's
Yeah.
actually looked really, really good since Robinson's out of there.
Yeah.
And as a counterpoint to that, the guy who's really kind of disappointing me right now is Alvin Kamara.
Oh my
Um,
God. Tell me about it.
yeah, he's like 50th overall in our league in fantasy. And as a running back, I think he's like 25th or something like that. And he
Yeah.
just simply has not been getting the production that you come to expect from him. So that's a tricky call to say, sit him, but he's been underperforming in a big way. And
Yeah.
like his last 3 weeks have been, like under 10 points. And that's like, you can find that production elsewhere sometimes.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
yeah, yeah. So he's one that is really kind of disappointing right now. And so when I think of players that I want to start, I mean, definitely like if you had any compunction about Henry, for example, it seems
Oh yeah.
obvious.
Come
But
on, man.
Henry's been on a monster roll. He got stymied this 2 weeks ago,
Yes, he did.
and just picked up, just started another streak. Like from week 2 to week, I think eight or no, week 9 or 10, he was
Mm.
putting up like 20 plus points every single week, some weeks like 30. And then he took 1 week off. I guess somebody bottled him up good.
Yeah.
And then this last week again with the 20-25 points. So Derrick Henry is your monster start right now. Jonathan Taylor is definitely one you could sit. Believe it or not,
Yes,
we
you
are
can
saying
sit
that
him.
Jonathan Taylor can be sat right now, because his production
Tell me
just
about it.
there just hasn't been any sign of uptick.
No.
So yeah, those would be my ones right now. It's getting to be a tricky time of the year. The second half in the season is
Yeah.
kind of like the second half in a game, right?
Right.
So you got to be careful. But guys like Debo Samuel were also disappointing. Metcalf,
Debo.
anybody who drafted GJ Metcalf in the like the second or third round, I know is massively disappointed.
Oh yeah.
Because even Lockett has seemed to resume his wide receiver one position. They're not separated by that much, but you would think that DJ Metcalf would be like, kind of putting Lockett out to pasture a little bit by now. You know what I mean? With almost like a 1.5 to 1 type of catch ratio, but no, he's not pulling that off at all.
Metcalf
So
disappointing
yeah,
this season for sure.
yeah. So those are some disappointments and starts.
Yeah, definitely it's that time of year because it's getting crunch time, man. It's crunch time. It's the
Mhm.
last end of the season, fantasy wise.
Fantasy players, fantasy
Fantasy.
players should be looking at schedules because
Oh,
weeks
schedules.
15 and 16 are your playoffs,
Yup.
and you need to look at what teams are coming up. And because
Mm,
some players are playing great right now,
yeah.
but they have a massive schedule change. I forget which player it was. Boy, I had him targeted, but it was a player that we all expected to do well, and I forgot what it was.
Oh, which
It
player?
might have been,
Ooh.
yeah. It might no. It was ETN. It was
Oh,
ETN because
TN.
I was
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
figure out
yeah.
why he was producing so poorly to begin with. But if you look at his schedule, the first half of the season is just all pure red, meaning like the teams that he's playing are some of the toughest teams to play. And
Oh,
you look at the
yeah.
second half of his season, he's all green lights and yellow.
Because what
So
happens
yeah, that
around the end of the season, it's a lot of
yeah,
divisional matchups, and that division is ass. So
yeah,
if he's playing
yeah.
against the freaking, I don't know, if he's playing against the Texans or he's playing against even Indianapolis Colts, yeah, he's gonna get a lot of yards. He's
That's
gonna get
it.
a lot of yards, man.
That's
So,
it. So those players that aren't like locks in your lineup and you're questioning who can do what, absolutely. Fantasy players, take a look at the schedules of players that
mm,
you think are a toss up. Look at pay attention to that. It matters.
That's some great advice, man. And since we're getting around the end of, the football schedule, well, the fantasy football schedule,
We're getting
let's
down
talk
to the
about
last quarter.
we're getting down to the last quarter. We kind of had a mid-season, well, a few weeks ago was a mid-season. What are our mid-season awards? So for MVP, right? Middle,
Mhm.
we're like mid-season based. So I'm gonna call this the middle of the season. For MVP, I hate to say this because I'm not a Mahomes guy, but if Mahomes keeps doing what he's doing, the man has, I think, 30 some touchdowns with 7 or 8 interception. He's doing something insane. I think Mahomes takes the MVP this year. Defensive player of the year, Micah Parsons. Okay, I see he's front running, but Micah Parsons, maybe Matthew Judon can make a case because Judon is playing amazing football,
Yeah,
especially from the
yeah, he's the
edge.
counterpoint.
He's the counterpoint. Rookie of the year on offense. I honestly thought there was going to be Brees Hall because of the beginning of the season. He was going crazy. But on offense, I really, really like this Clive, the receiver off the Saints. I think he's one of the few. He's
Olave, Christopher
Olave.
Olave.
This guy's
Mm.
been doing crazy work for me, but maybe I'm blanking out on another player. But I know for sure who defensive rookie of the year should be. That's Sauce Gardner, man.
Oh,
This
I was
man
gonna
is
say,
doing.
just on
Come
the
on,
name alone, for
like
heaven's sakes, Sauce Gardner is just a
Sauce Gardner.
miracle, man.
Come
He's
on,
awesome. I
man.
love him.
I love him so much. The sauce, the
I don't think there's
swag,
much question about the Sauce Gardner being, that
defensive rookie,
cornerback is
man.
special, boy.
So good, bro. And those are my people. But who are you thinking are your midseason awards for MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and Offensive Rookie and
Well,
Offensive Defensive Player of the Year? What are your
yeah,
thoughts so far?
okay, well, similar thoughts, similar
Yeah.
thoughts. I mean, we both have eyes to see, right? But
Yes.
the one guy I would differ with you for,
Talk to
and
me.
it's hard to argue against Mahomes, but I can be a bit contrarian, right?
Let's
Because it's
go.
so easy
I'm a fan of that.
just to
Yeah.
jump on everybody's, oh yeah, this guy's doing great, yeah, he's your guy, right?
Mm.
And you sound like everybody else, right? But
Yeah.
honestly, as far as impact goes, literally the most valuable player to me has been Tags. The difference in that Miami team since he returned from concussion
Ooh.
protocols, to me, in my
Yes.
mind, makes him a genuine MVP. Like he is the most valuable player to his team, and it's black and white. You can just see the difference.
Oh,
Right, so to me,
okay.
Tags is an MVP, but yeah, Mahomes would be in there in that conversation
And
immediately
then
too, just
and
because of
if
what he's done as well.
And then think about
Um,
it like this: Miami would be, I think, the number one seed if Tua hadn't got injured. I think they'll
yeah,
be the number one
yeah,
seed in the FC. You're right. He's
I,
so
I
valuable
I
to that
think
team.
they have two more wins than they do.
You're right. You're
Right?
absolutely right,
So
bro.
they'd be like another 9-1 or 8-2 team,
Yes.
right? So yeah, I absolutely think there was at least one of those games in there that they would have won if Tags was playing for sure. Yeah, no
Mhm.
question. So, anyways, that's my offensive MVP because I love the left hook, right?
Lefty, lefty, lefty.
But yeah, no, for your rookies on offense, Olave makes a great case. 43 catches, 618 yards, right?
Yes.
Only 3 touchdowns, but that's typical for wide receivers, right?
Yeah.
But the guy I would counter to that, I would suggest he has a smaller profile, but more impact, and that's Kenny Walker the third in
Ooh.
Seattle. Guy's got
Yes.
6 touchdowns and is averaging more than 100 yards a game, right? So, you
Yes.
know, he's only had the lead back role for 4 weeks. There was a buy in there as well, right? So it seems like longer. But the
Mhm.
guy's racked up as a lead back, 424 yards, 4 games, 6 touchdowns, and the guy can catch, right? So to me, he makes a very good case for that. We'll have to see how the rest of the season shakes out. Same
Yes.
thing with the Tags thing, right? Tags would have to finish off the way he's been playing for me to, bump Mahomes out of the way, right? He would definitely have to go all the way.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would offer definitely Matthew Judon as a counterpoint to Mika
Yes.
Parsons. Mika Parsons is a great argument, right? The
Yes.
guy's got 10 sacks and more tackles than Judon does. But Judon has 13 sacks in total,
Yes.
but only one forced fumble. Mika Parsons has 3 forced fumbles.
Oh,
right? So
okay.
you kind of those two guys are really evenly matched.
Yes.
And Mika, of course, is a sophomore player. Judy's a solid veteran in his seventh season, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to see how it all plays out, and we'll have to see how if Dallas continues to play the way they've been playing,
Yeah.
and if Belichick keeps his defense up there the way he has historically, like it looks like he's doing. They seem to be rounding into fantastic shape there in up in New England.
Man, who would have thought New England just like that bounced from the dead
Right?
to become
Well,
an
anybody who's
emerging
been a
as a
big fan of
player?
Belichick,
Yeah, I'm saying that I'm not even a
right?
huge Belichick guy, but this defense is looking deadly, and this
But
defense
you just got to
travels, man.
recognize.
You know what I'm
You got to
saying?
recognize the workman-like players he gets to
Telling you.
overproduce and outperform just season after season after season
And
is really quite remarkable.
I say this as a guy, Matthew Judon was on the Baltimore Ravens for 6 seasons. I didn't
Yes, he
see this
was.
coming. I didn't see him getting 13 sacks and being an MVP, a borderline defensive player of the year candidate. Like, what is this? So much value from players that other teams
Yep.
let go. Like, what the hell?
Well, because Belichick's a good coach and he's got good coaches under him. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't always have the best talent at all, but he really does have a way of scheming things up and getting the best out of people, motivating them, and you're seeing it in Matthew Juden for sure.
Well,
As far as
go ahead. Yeah, talk to
yeah,
me.
Sauce Gardner definitely for your rookie, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think that pretty much covers the gambit of midseason awards.
I really like it, man. You know what? We're gonna take some bets after this, man. Whoever gets the most bets right for mid-season, the other one buys them a beer or buys them some food or some shit. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I want to
Yeah, we're
give
gonna
it.
have to find a way to audit that.
I know. We're gonna yo, people in the comments, hold us accountable. I'm gonna check back
There,
on this.
there
We're
you
gonna
go.
find out if Unc or Stepper was right. But before I let everybody go, we gotta give a heavy shout out to Kareem, the sleeper. I know you're
No
watching this,
kidding,
bro.
huh? No kidding, huh? So you guys had a good visit.
We had a good time, man. It was so good seeing him. I just had to record that. It was hilarious. And Jasmine was
Yeah.
like, recorded. I was like, okay, funny. Let's do it. Let's send it. Let's
Well,
send it to Unc.
that was funny. I was just like, no, because I know where it goes, right? No, that could get. He works too hard for that. Don't do
Yeah,
that.
man. We
I
literally
don't know
picked.
I don't know what mischief was going through your brain, but I was just like, no.
Hey, we ain't telling. We ain't snitching, bro. Ain't nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Y'all are grown folks now, man.
Oh my God. Well, Kareem, you better get in the comments, man. We need your thoughts on this, man.
All right.
Oh man. On that note, man, appreciate you, Unc. Thank you for sliding through. We're
It
happy you came back, brother. Talk
it
to the
was a
people.
pleasure to be back, my brethren. That was a lot of fun. I missed it. I really did. So I'm looking forward to the next one.
Love it, brother.
All
Everybody. And
right.
we out. Catch y'all next week. Deuces.
All right.
Peace.